Okay, so it is 6:02. Let's start, seeing as we only have an hour and we have a lot to get through. We'll start with just doing some quick introductions and some housekeeping. And then I'm going to do a quick talk about the tool lending library. And then we'll hand over and we'll be discussing building a relationship with your contractor. So first of all, we'll just do some quick introductions. My name's Kim Parker. I'm with Historic Albany Foundation. I do programming, membership, outreach, all of that fun things. Should we go this way? Does that make sense to you? Dan?
All right, sounds good. I'm Dan Beaudry. I work with the Historic Albany Foundation in the Architectural Parts Warehouse, and I also help out with the tool lending library.
Hello, my name is Chris Hacker. I'm the owner of Albany Artisans and a member of the Historic Resource Commission here in the city of Albany.
I am also a worker for Albany Artisans with Chris, and I am just on the tool library panel, I guess.
Committee as well. You're on the committee too.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Dan, do you want to go next since you're not muted? Dan Curry.
Yeah, hey Cam. I'm trying to get my video working. It says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
I'm working on it.
Oh, okay. All right, never mind. Hi Cam. Hey Zoe. Hey Chris.
Hey,
hey other Dan, who I don't know, but now I know. How you doing? Hey, I'm Dan Curry. I'm a solo contractor in the area, and I participate a lot with Historic Albany, and I know obviously some of these co-panelists. So hi everybody.
Hello, Dan.
Hey Dan, nice to hear you. And then we have Amy. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Amy Mclaughlin. I'm the Communities Programs and Partnerships Manager for Albany Public Library. We're here as a co-host and just wanted to thank everyone for coming, and we're thrilled to partner with Albany Historic Albany Foundation for the Tool Library. We are all about supporting libraries and trying to provide education to our community. Thank you all for being here.
Excellent. Thank you, Amy. We're super thrilled to be partnering with the Albany Public Library. We love the stuff you guys do. And I am a personal huge fan of the library, hence why I'm heading up a tool library. So that segues nicely. Oh, and we have Kelsey. Sorry, Kelsey just got on here. Well, I'll talk about the tool library a second, and then Kelsey. Oh, Kelsey, are you able to introduce yourself?
I think so now.
Oh, yay.
Hello. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know if I was in on the right link or something for a minute.
No probs. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Let me start video. Nope, says I can't. I'm Kelsey Adams. I've been working with Albany Artisans for about 3 years now. And I'm also on the committee for the tool library.
Excellent. Well, I think Zoe's just trying to figure out how to get the videos going, but in the meantime,
okay.
I'm going to talk about the tool lending library. So the tool lending library, of which we are all a part of, and this is the first program that we're doing as part of that too, is going to be opening, we're hoping this summer, in our offices or our warehouse at Historic Albany Foundation, which is 89 Lexington Ave. As you can see, Dan and Chris are in the tool library right now. Soon that will be populated with hundreds and hundreds of tools and toolkits and wonderful volunteers. And the whole point of the tool lending library is to share not only tools, but also knowledge. So we're going to be having regular programs that people will be able to attend so they can build confidence. Our tool lending library volunteers will also be helping everybody learn and build confidence on the tools. It's great for the environment. It's a sharing community. It's going to be amazing. And we hope that everybody on this chat will be a part of it and use it, spread the word, volunteer, whatever you want to do. We are so super happy to have as many people as we can involved. We really want this to be an amazing community resource. So without further ado, like I said, we'll put the survey, I put the survey in. If you need anything in terms of questions about this program, about the Tool Lending Library, about Historic Albany Foundation, our warehouse, anything like that, please just give me an email or message me on here and I'll be happy to answer. So without further ado, I feel like we should start because we've got plenty to get through, and I thought we'd start with some fun definitions. Oh, Maria, I probably should have said that. That is a great question. There will be a $20 annual fee for being part of the tool library. You will be able to reserve your tools online before you have to come in to get them. And then you'll be able to borrow them for 1 week or 2 weeks. They won't just be individual tools. There'll also be kits. You know, for example, there'll be a plumbing kit. So you'll have all of those things in one kit. If you are a volunteer, you will get a complimentary membership as well. So thank you for reminding me of that. Probably should have opened with that. So if you have any more questions, like I said, please just pop them in the chat and we'll try and get to as many as we can tonight. Okay, so pop quiz, definitions. What do we think for our panelists? What is an estimate when we're dealing with contractors? What do we think estimate?
Well, I can answer that question.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
I've written plenty of estimates. I mean, estimate's pretty broad in its sense. You know, after meeting with somebody and you learn about what they want to do and you've taken the time and you're communicating back and forth and you have an understanding of what they want to do, I prepare what's called a scope of work. And in that scope of work, it lists all that we intend to do. And then it turns into a proposal and what would be the word? I present it to you, and then we discuss it some more.
Excellent. Anything else from our other panelists they'd like to add? Okay.
I will say, just because it's come up a few times, that an estimate, like Chris was saying, it's the scope of work. So don't expect anybody to think that the estimate is, you know, set in stone. It could go up, it could go down, it could go up by a lot, it could go down by a little. You know, it's very much an estimate, especially depending on the type of job being done. It's very hard to get anything that's exact.
Set in stone.
Yeah.
So could we say something like, I'm just thinking in my layman's terms, is it like a ballpark? Would we say it's a starting point?
Yeah, it's a good starting.
Then be explored.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kels.
Oh, just seconded.
I mean, I also think it depends. I mean, if you're doing an addition on a house, yeah, it's going to go up or down. If you're given an estimate to tile a backsplash, and the guy or the gal comes and tells you it's going to be twice the price when they get there, that, you know, a smaller job, your contractor should be able to relatively stay within the means of the number they give you.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Yeah.
So that varies based on the scope of the project.
Excellent. And a not to exceed number. A not to exceed number.
I really couldn't answer that one for you. So projects do evolve. I mean, we don't have let's take, for example, we do a lot of vacant properties, buildings with full restorations and remodels. And I can't see through the walls. I don't have X-ray vision. So in that part of the project, I like to do our own removals for discovery so I can more accurately create an estimate or proposal for you.
Mm-hmm.
They're the unforeseen. So your project's ever evolving and your collaboration through that is incredibly important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've asked in the past for a not to exceed number with a really big project, like what's like the worst case scenario, and sometimes people can give you that, and that's also probably a good time to talk about when you might want to check, you know, have the contractor check in with you, say, you know, I think that this is now going to exceed the estimate by a bit of money, you know, do you want to continue to go forward with this or not? I think it's kind of related. And I know that the not to exceed number is not something that a lot of people necessarily do, but it helps, I think, to have a worst case scenario in your head or to be able to ask for that worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. So again, it's I guess like Chris said, it's explorative. Is that right? It's a process. So
Yeah, so even when you're, as a contractor, you could even gear that first, we can estimate a cost of what it would take to do some discovery on your project before we actually give you an estimate. I do understand what not to exceed means. It kind of tells you that's the top of my budget.
right.
I can do no more. And that is for the discussion, as far as you want to go. Some projects can get taken in phases, so you can break it down in different ways.
So David has a question asking, is it typical to pay for just the exploration to start if walls and other things are unknown?
I would say yes. Yes. I mean, you can ballpark, but in ballparking, you're creating that bigger estimate, but you want it so as not to mislead. We work a lot with homeowners, and we do commercial spaces as well. So I think it is important, and yes, there would be a fee attached to some discovery. If the discovery is minor, of course, it would be minor. But if we got a wall, it's water damaged, we obviously know there's a water problem going on somewhere. We're going to want to remove that wall and see if the interior framing is damaged. We want to see what other kind of damage has been done so we can better estimate it. Because the most important thing a contractor can be is informative and do his best not to mislead.
Mm-hmm.
So I think steps like that are part of what makes a successful project.
So Leslie asked, what does an exploration entail?
Well, it'd be tailored around exactly well, first of all, we got an idea what we're looking for. So it would be particular to that project. But if somebody wants to throw any questions out or examples of what they'd like to know, I could talk about how you would explore that.
I could say my experience with exploration on my house, when I bought it, I knew that its foundation was funky. I didn't know quite to what level funky it was. So for my exploration phase, it was digging down to see the foundation. And then when we could see the foundation, that meant the structural engineer could come, and then we could go from there. Oh, okay, well, how much is this going to cost? What is the scope of work here? So for me, I don't know, like Leslie's saying about wiring, plumbing, for me for foundation, it was digging and actually seeing, and it turned out that it didn't have a foundation. So that was an interesting day. It's all fine now. But yeah, so that was definitely, and that was something, again, we would never have known if we hadn't have dug. So a contractor couldn't have come out and said, oh, that's going to be X, Y, Z, and this is going to be the situation, because you simply couldn't see what it was.
I think that's the most important part of the discovery and the exploration, is that it's very specific to the individual project that you have going on. If you're going to, take down a couple walls and like redo the floor plan of your house or that kind of project, you're going to have to look into a little bit less in terms of like actual exploration of the house beyond a lot of like load bearing walls and electric wiring and things like that, compared to the amount of discovery that you would need for like Kim's project and figuring out just how bad the foundation is. So different projects require different amounts of discovery, and some contractors and people also will build that into your project costs. So like if you decide that you do want to go ahead with the project and you want to work with that contractor, then a lot of times they will take what you've already paid them in discovery fees out of the project costs. That's not every contractor, but there are plenty of contractors that do that.
That's what happened to me when I hired a plumber. And for my situation, discovery was just the plumber walking around, tracing out the pipes in the basement, just seeing what was there, what was old, what was new, whether there was galvanized pipe or plastic or whatever. And that's exactly what they did when we went with them. They just folded that, like that they waived that fee.
And I think as well, actually, Dan Curry has been doing some discovery work in my kitchen too, which is figuring out, is this wall hollow? Can we move that kitchen there? Didn't we, Dan? We were kind of looking at that as well when you came around mine last time.
Yeah, I do mostly kitchen and bathroom renovations. And so I pretty much preface every one of my clients at the beginning with, especially with bathrooms, with, hey, I do light plumbing, but I'm not a plumber. So, I'm after I do the demo phase, we're going to have to assess what the plumbing situation is. And if it's a light repair, it's in my budget. But if there's some, if the whole bathroom needs to have a lot of work done to it, then we either need to bring in a plumber I know or a plumber and just trying to best prepare people for the surprises that come up, because the smallest project's going to have surprises, and a lot of times the contractor, we can eat it in our contingency if it's small enough. We've factored in, hey, we have a little wiggle room in our budget, but a lot of times we don't. And so for us to continue on the project, the homeowner or the business owner needs to realize that, hey, we found something that we didn't know could be there. And the responsibility is on them to step up financially to address it.
Mm-hmm. So I think, I mean, we've as a group discussed these kind of topics a lot. We were talking a lot about communication, a lot about how it's a process. It's not just you meet one person and they're like, right, okay, this is it. We're going, we're doing it. That's it. And also just managing expectations is a big thing too. So let's jump in to some of our discussion
about hiring a contractor with somebody with a lot more experience that's seen a lot, done a lot, is going to be a better judge of what's going on with your project,
Absolutely.
how to approach it. And that's just how things do evolve. We grow, the homeowner grows, it grows, we're growing.
I think especially when it comes to, our older housing stock that we have in this area, like even the other day I was changing some light fixtures, and you take it down and you're like, what did they do here? And that's explorative, and you're like, can we work with this? Like, is this okay? So, it's like taking into account the fact that these houses are older, and that's what makes them so special. That's also what makes them a pain in the butt sometimes. But, it's a double-edged sword like that.
For sure.
You are trying to avoid surprises and misunderstandings in budgets. You're trying to stick to them, but you have surprises.
So let's talk about that then, Chris. So let's talk about that first kind of meeting. What should if I was hiring a contractor, what is the first meeting? What does that look like? What do we talk about? Do we talk about the exploration? Do we talk about timeline? Do we talk about back ordering? Like what is our kind of process?
In that first initial meeting, you want to get to know each other. You want to get a great understanding of their project. You want them to illustrate to you as best they can, whether they have to snippets, cutouts from magazines, different ideas of what they're thinking, what kind of research have they done on their own, those kind of things. You have those kind of meetings. I never like this, walk out the door and common question, well, what could this cost me? And I've learned that you want to be really careful and you want to go home and you want to think about it. And you want to lay it out. You want to write that scope of work that you've just determined.
10 times.
And that kind of stuff, take a lot. Then you're going to start thinking timelines. But really, I'm losing track of what I'm saying. I don't know what was Dan saying.
Well, I think too that a lot of times people come with their own preconceived notions about what, as a homeowner, what can be done and what it might cost and how fast it might happen. And I think probably in that first meeting, there's probably a little bit of an adjustment where you might help me understand that, oh no, this isn't HGTV. It's not going to be done in 3 days. Or, hey, by the way, you've got plaster walls. If you want wiring run through that, it's not like working with drywall. Like it's not as easy to put an outlet in unless it's on a certain floor. And you could explain that, and that kind of coming to a meeting of ground, like leveling, so that you're using the same language, you're at the same spot with the similar expectations before you have the second meeting where things get probably more nuanced.
True, yeah. I'll meet with customers numerous times and answer the phone and talk to them numerous times. before we even get started. I really want to hammer that down. So to alleviate, misconceptions or.
So would you say that if you, I suppose, again, it's dependent on the size of the job, right? So if you're having something that's fairly simple, easy to go, that you maybe don't need any of like so many meetings, but if you meet a contractor for a larger job and they're ready to go after the first meeting, is that like a warning sign? Is that like oh, is this guy or this, girl, they don't know what they're doing? Or like, would that be for a homeowner, would that be a warning sign, do you think?
What was that again? Asking
So
for a second meeting?
Yeah, so say if I have a big complicated job and like someone comes out and they say, oh no, here's everything, and in that first meeting they've got everything and they say, we can start now. Is it necessary to have those several meetings in order to avoid any misunderstandings, I guess, in the future, so you ensure that you've got
I'll hop on that just really quick and say that in this market right now, and Chris can agree with me or disagree with me. In this market right now, if you find anybody for a big project who says they can start tomorrow, that's a bad sign. And that probably means that they're handling multiple jobs at a time, which means they're not going to be detailed and organized, or it means that they're desperate for work. And unfortunately for the homeowners right now, it's a seller's market. So folks that are good and detailed and have built a good customer base are not, I say this very humbly because this could change overnight, due to economic conditions. But, folks who are doing good work are not able to start tomorrow. So just keep that in mind if somebody tells you that, maybe you're lucky. I'm not saying that's every time, but it should definitely be a red flag.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you. That's definitely a flag for homeowners. When I can start tomorrow, give me the money. On a complicated project, you are going to be meeting multiple times, almost weekly, whenever it's needed, really consistently. I mean, if there's something like the electrician, you're going to organize meetings with electricians and homeowners, plumbers and homeowners, heating contractors with homeowners. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause you guys there and say, we have a question asking, what questions do you wish the homeowners would ask in that first meeting? Is there anything like Chris and Dan specifically, like 1 or 2 questions that you guys have that you would want them to ask?
That is a good question. That's a good question. It should be asked more. I guess it matters on the contractor and how you communicate with them. I mean, certainly you could leave them maybe a little bit more confused than they were when before you got there. And if you feel like you've done that, you just keep talking like me. Just keep talking.
I can't. Sorry, Kelsey, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm good. I guess I would second that for the most part. And yeah, as far as questions that I would like to be asked by customers, I'm not sure. I think it's just a matter of getting on the same page, like we've been talking about, just kind of constant communication, and whether that be about budget, timeline, what needs to happen, what their vision is, what your vision is, or like, yeah, just everything working together.
There is one really important question. All you homeowners out there, I'd want you to do is ask your contractor if he can provide you with a certificate of insurance and proof of workers' comp if you have employees.
That was going to be.
So there's a question you could ask.
Always.
And don't be afraid to do it. It's the right thing to do.
I agree. I don't have any employees, but I am insured, and I've never been asked for my insurance before, ever. And it is surprising to me. I come from a background of being a project manager, working for a large company, and people weren't even allowed to start on our properties until we had, our accounting department had all their insurance documents, check marked, paperwork notched off, because it's a liability for you as the homeowner. So anybody that's good is going to have it. Just make sure that they do have it.
What is that insurance there to cover? We were talking about it before we started.
Yeah, outside the meeting, Dan and I were talking about how many risks and challenging things that we have to incur. If we need to bring a ladder into your house, and which is moving that ladder into your house, we don't want to break any of your things, we don't want to damage any of your things. So we take so many calculated risks in a day in trying to accomplish something. That was a sidebar, but I think it's
Well, but the insurance helps cover that. Like if you
It
knock
would.
over their TV,
it would. Myself and most liability insurances cover up to about $1 million for one call. So if I just installed some plumbing in your house and your pipes froze and you left and you're in Florida for 2 weeks and nobody went over there to check to see if everything was okay, and the water has rose up into the first floor, and whose responsibility is that? Was it the plumbing contractors?
Right.
The plumbing?
Mhm.
So we take a lot of,
calculated risks.
calculated risks.
So going on to the next question, then I'm gonna try and keep us going a little bit faster, but I guess I don't know. I just realized I don't actually have my clock in front of me, but contractors typically do file for permits and everything, correct? Like that's
That's the standard, right?
That's absolutely, that
Yeah.
they do. They will
Yeah.
file for permits here in the city of Albany. I'm assuming most of you guys tuning in are working here in the city of Albany. Most of your projects, service work is different than some of the work that we do as contractors, but it's not my favorite word, contractors. I wish there was a better word. Just what we are, carpenters. That just means, where the hell am I with this one? Did you guys really bring me on this show? Who put me on this show?
yeah. So
Perfect.
for that work, each portion of the job that requires a permit to be done is going to be filed by the contractor. Those smaller jobs like plumbing, like if a plumber comes in to fix your sink or your toilet, they're not going to need to file a permit for that kind of stuff. If you're doing an entire house remodel, then you're probably going to be looking at, 1 or 2 permits for depending on what your job is.
Right, but with the work that we kind of do, yes, the homeowner, there's plenty of signatures for them to put into the permitting process as well, whether it's a certificate of appropriateness if you're in a historic district or the master plan form.
Mm-hmm. So
And
it's
they're
dependent on
actually-
the area as well.
What the master plan does, it actually gives you the permission to allow the contractor to represent you in the permitting process.
Excellent. Before we just jump into some questions, I just wanted to have a quick chat on our materials subject, because I know that was something that we had all discussed as well. And so who is
That is
responsible?
a topic of a few of these questions too. So when we're
Perfect.
talking about materials, let's talk about delays that you could have in particular for having that, and then also like certain costs amounts for like payment structures and stuff when we're talking about materials.
Perfect. So in terms of the materials, who picks up the materials and who pays for them?
Well,
Oh, depends on what the expectations have been set up front. I mean, that's not an exact science. And I don't want to tangent. I want to go on a quick tangent because I saw a really good question by somebody about do they have to hire a designer or should the contractor be the designer? Again, I think everything keeps leading back to this thing of setting expectations from the get-go. If you want an exact detailed plan for a bathroom or a kitchen, you may have to hire a designer or an architect. I'm sure Chris can speak to that a little bit more. He does a little bit more intense projects than I do, but not every contractor is going to give you this stunning, beautiful, you saw it on Instagram design that you see. So again, back to communication from the get-go, and that's the same with materials. Sometimes people will want to not have to write a check at the end of the project or upfront as a deposit for a lot of the materials. They maybe would prefer to put it on a rewards credit card, or it's all how you want to pay. So maybe you're paying for the materials and the contractor is going to go pick them up and bring them to the job site. Again,
in the
you want
warehouse,
to
we often get people.
that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, again, it all goes back to you want to set that, you want to communicate that at the beginning so everyone knows their role.
Along those lines, in the warehouse, we often get people, homeowners coming in and picking up materials because their contractor doesn't, you know, they want their life to be as simple as possible, that they have the materials that they need to do the job. And sometimes the homeowner will want to reuse materials. And so the homeowner will come in and bring back the doors or the windows or whatever. And then the contractor can work with those, and instead of the contractor going to Lowe's or Home Depot and, you know, getting the materials.
Hey, Dan, I very much agree with you. And it is what you arrive at with the customer, what's the best arrangement for them. I also want them to know that their project, every project is uniquely different in some way. So your project is unique and you want to communicate that as best as possible. And you want to have that conversation with your contractor about how you will execute that. You both really need, contractor, homeowner, you both need to be really good listeners.
And I know, like we've talked about it, Zoe, like the back ordering at the moment and the expectation for that, and lumber and the prices. So how does that impact a job at the moment?
I mean, I don't know if that was directed towards me, but I know, I mean, obviously we've
Well, I know we
discussed
talked about it last time.
yeah. And I've run into it like when we were trying to do some renovations to my house, and we were trying to get a few things, and then on a few of the job sites that I've worked on for other people, like waiting on the lumber costs to either go down to purchase the appropriate amounts of material because they've gone up and the client had a little bit of wiggle room. And then also just understanding that, like, okay, they want a very specific type of wood for a project, and it's just not in stock at any of the local lumber yards right now. So telling the client that they need to wait, you know, anywhere between a week to 2 or 3 months at times for back ordered material. And I mean, like everything else that we've been talking about so far, it all comes back to that communication. As soon as your contractor finds out that, you know, there's been a significant rise in prices for materials based on when he gave you the initial estimate or when he started the initial work, or when they find out that, you know, if they have either started a project or about to start a project and their materials are back ordered, that's something that they should let you know right away. And ideally, you would also be understanding of that, because that's obviously not anything that they have control over. They have control over their work, where they can get their materials and everything, but they don't control everything. So having that open line of communication, once again, is pretty key in that. And especially in the pandemic times, supply lines have been wonky on pretty much everything. And for some reason, lumber prices have skyrocketed because of the pandemic as well. So like prices for projects have definitely changed quite a bit from what they were 2 years ago.
I mean, truly, they're unforeseens. And the contractor shares with the homeowner also the same disappointment. They like to keep your project moving. So it's just something that we all have to roll with. I mean, that's an important part about all projects, is being flexible and working through them. They're out of our hands and out of your hands. And we're going to do our best to hustle to get you them as soon as possible, but we're limited to.
So really, I mean, like we've been discussing, it just comes back to really communication, you know, like speaking regularly, finding out what's happening, being, you know, like text, calling, you know, however best, visiting, but just being sure that everybody is on the same page. We have a bazillion questions in the chat, so we're going to jump into some of those.
While you're looking, Kim, I just wanted to say something about that communication, because especially now with social media and texting and emails and phone calling and face-to-face meetings. There are so many different ways that you can meet with somebody. And I think it's important for you to figure out what works best for the two parties, and not to necessarily get angry that somebody's not responding to your text. They may just not be the kind of person who does that. So it's better to figure that out early on. Do you prefer a phone call? Do you prefer an email? Like, how do you like to communicate? What works best for you? Because, obviously if your contractor's on the job, he or she may not want to be reaching for their phone every, time you text them. So I think to figure that out is good, because it'll remove a lot of opportunities for misunderstanding and anger.
And
That's
to
true.
that point also, tone, especially if you are doing texting or emails, not everything is written in the same tone in which you read it, and understanding that can go a really long way as well. I've seen numerous relationships go south because of, not just in contracting, but just personally too, as I'm sure many of you guys have, is we are all getting used to the prevalence of tech over the last decade. And just reading a text message in an angry tone when that's not how they meant it to be, or seeing an email and thinking that they thought that you were short with them and they are upset or something like that. And that's not how any of it was intended at all. So again, kind of figuring out what that relationship is, what those points of, or what those preferred types of communication are, and just making sure that you don't do anything. Sorry, she got a little bored watching her movies. Yeah, just making sure that you don't take anything too personally, and you can figure out, you don't give up on that relationship and you continue to build it.
Perfect.
And I would also,
Very good,
if
Kelsey.
I have a second to add to it,
Sure.
sorry, to also get an idea of their schedule, because our jobs it's like a job like any other job, and we might prefer to do 9 to 5, or some people don't mind being texted late at night or on weekends, but a lot of people do mind that. So that's another thing to just be wary of, how much and when you're trying to contact this person, and you don't want to totally derail their own life and schedule.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. If you're calling on a Saturday night, that might not be the best time to.
Yeah, because we usually just have our personal phones. We don't have a separate business phone or an office or anything like that.
So I've got how many estimates should I get? And what is the average cost for getting an estimate, from Joanne?
Well, first the cost. I don't charge for estimates unless we have to do some deeper discovery. Unless we have to do some deeper discovery, and that discovery, it's a known. Okay, I can't see through the wall. The wall's eroding terribly. It's got to go no matter what. But I can give you a more accurate estimate after. How many? I would get as many estimates
until you feel comfortable.
Until you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Be honest. Yeah, and then interviewing and meeting with different contractors, different personalities. One's click, some don't click, some click easier than others. Yeah.
More important than estimates, I think is referrals. If you've got some friends or a sister or an aunt who just got some work done at their house, and they refer somebody to you, that's gonna, that they did a great job, that they were communicative through the process, that they did all the things we've been talking about well. You may find that their estimate might be middle of the line, and you might want to take that one over the lowest estimate, because you've got an insurance policy that that person has done good work in the past. Even if you don't know this person, you don't have a reference, I think one of the most important things you can do when you're getting an estimate, depending on what that person is doing for that job, ask them if they have pictures on their phone of things they've done recently that are like that. You know, I do a lot of showers. I build showers, and so I rip a lot of showers out, and I've ripped a lot of 50-year-old showers out, and I've ripped a lot of 5-year-old showers out. And typically the 5-year-old shower, it's because as soon as you start taking it out, you can tell that the person who did it was so in over their head. They had no idea what they were doing. They were using the wrong materials. They weren't waterproofing. And it's probably because they hadn't done a lot of showers. So if you're hiring somebody to do something specific, make sure they do that, you know, in and out, and they have experience with it. And anybody today's day and age is going to have pictures on their phone of work they've done. And I honestly like when customers ask me that. I'm proud to show off my work, you know. I'm proud to pull up pictures and show them, hey, you know, here's something I just did. Maybe we start talking about design inspiration ideas from that. So it helps kind of develop the project too.
And getting a lead on somebody is actually easier than it seems like it might be. I know even if you've moved to the area, it might seem a little daunting to find that person. But if you are on social media, you can throw something out on Facebook and say, hey, has anyone worked with, you know, a plumber? And then the real trick, I think, to keep in the back of your mind is when you do find somebody you appreciated working with, is ask them. You know, if you're working with a plumber and you need an electrician, say, well, who, you know, I like how you do work. I respect your work. You know, who would you recommend? Who would you go to? And before you know it, you've traced out this network of contractors who you can trust.
And so that actually goes into the next question very well. For what information do I need to provide a contractor in a first call or voicemail to even have that first meeting? Because I guess Abby's having a little bit of trouble getting that first meeting with the contractor about discussing their project. So like any tips or?
I think what Dan said is good. I think asking friends, putting it out on Facebook. You know, I've even, you know, I'm on part of like the Buy Nothing Albany group. People often post on there, I need such and such. And I think there's also the element of, and I know we've talked about this, Chris, is hiring the right person for the right job. You know, if you have a small job, do you really need this like contractor who does, you know, these big houses and is usually doing a 3-month job? You know, it's like, they're not probably going to call you back because that's not in their wheelhouse. And it goes to Dan's other point as well of, is whatever they're doing in their wheelhouse. Are they overpromise? What is it we say? Overpromise and
under promise and over deliver.
That is like, should be the contractor's creed, motto, whatever you want to call it. But I want to go back to what Dan said, because what Dan said was really important. I'll second that. That one of the best ways to find someone to work in your home is going to be a referral, word of mouth from somebody else. I mean, I know this personally. My entire business is built on that solely. So I just want to just put that out there to homeowner land, that if you're looking for a contractor, the first thing you do is talk to some friends, talk to people about past experiences. You know, as much as the homeowner is kind of interviewing the contractor is also interviewing you to see if it's a good fit. I just want to say that because this is really, you're putting together a team, you're putting together a temporary partnership to accomplish one goal. And that goal, we want to be on the same page. So it really is about communication, same page, informative business regularly. This evening, I've talked to 3 other people just so they knew what my plan was for tomorrow. But to get back to whatever we were talking about.
Well, I think because you know, Abby is obviously like struggling with finding that initial phone call of getting that quote, and that just, you know, at the moment that's, and
I could recommend Abby contact Historic Albany Foundation and ask for the contractor list. That is one way. And again, talk to some friends.
Yeah. And I think manage your expectations as well. I have phone calls all the time from people. They call me and they say, I can't get hold of any, no one's not going to come until 6 months. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is at the moment. You know, like I had to wait for my mason for 10 months and that was just, I had to eat it because there was just it was either go with him who knew what he was doing or go with somebody, like we were saying, who said, oh, I can start tomorrow. And it's like, well, why can you start tomorrow when everybody else is 10 months out? And, you know, they always say, what is it? Someone even commented on this post. There's like the three things, right? It's either cheap or it's
It's
what is
Cheap and
that?
fast. You only get to pick two.
Exactly. So just, you know, you have to be aware of that, and that if you want someone who's going to be able to work on your project, then and if they're worth waiting for, then just wait, you know, because the last thing you want to be doing is ripping out what, like Dan was saying, the 5-year-old shower, you know, like you don't want that to be happening to you. So let's have a look.
Just to end on that, it doesn't necessarily feel good to say, hey, I'm too busy. It's hard to say that to people. So again, that's part of it.
Well,
you know?
and going back to the question that was being asked earlier, which is like, I think people are having a hard time just getting a call back right now. And I know that as a homeowner, I feel like if I don't at least get a call back to just say, hey, I'm really busy, I want to work with you, I scratch them off the list. You know, I'll try a couple of times. If I don't hear from them, that's just about basic respect. And if you can't start there, you're not going to end there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm.
And I guess to go back to a little bit more of a specific answer for her question, in that first phone call, if you're going to leave a voicemail or something, you really want to tell them what you're looking for. Are you looking for a bathroom remodel? Are you looking for someone to replace your shower head? Are you kind of give them an idea of the scope of your project? Because that's going to be where are you going to work with a bigger group like Albany Artisans and Chris for a larger scope project? Or are you going to work with an individual business like Dan and go with a smaller like one room project? And that allows them to see if it's something that it's worth taking on for them and what their capabilities are for that project. So the scope of your project and some more specifics about what you're actually asking them to do in that voicemail, so they can have an idea of what you're looking for when they call you back. And to Dan's point, if they don't call you back, then it's probably not somebody that you're going to really be wanting to work with anyway, because obviously there are some of those communication issues.
Yeah,
they're not
absolutely.
even willing to get back to you.
And do a little research on your own of roughly how much should things cost. You know, you can spend a quick 30 minutes. You know, if you're about to spend $15,000 on a project, you can spend a quick 30 minutes just doing some research online on how much aspects of that project cost, so that you can get a framework in your mind of how much this might cost me. You know, we meet with a lot of people who have something in mind, and they think it is going to cost 1/10 of the price that it costs, because they want something, but they haven't thought anything about the price. So, you know, that will help build your budget. That will help find contractors that, you know, their estimates are high, low, in the middle. And it's just going to help you know more about it in general before you walk into it, I guess.
Right. So it's basically like giving yourself kind of the tools to have a successful relationship, because you're saying, you know, like, I know what I expect, what I want. These are what this, you know, you're basically advocating for yourself as well, because, you know, you're being able to come in with a little bit of knowledge. You know, you're not just
exactly. I'm trying to fence my yard in the summer, and it's a huge yard. So, you know, I've walked it with a wheel. I've researched, you know, the different types of fencing and how much each is. I've built myself a budget based on those things. I haven't called one fencing company yet. And I might not even, my wife and I might not even do that this year, but we're starting to get the framework together of, this is going to be a sizable investment for us. We want to know what it should cost, so that when somebody comes to us and tells us what it costs, we either say, hey, I like this person and they seem within range, or that guy's nuts. He's charging me 3 times as much because he's got so many people calling him that he's taking advantage of the market, you know? And that's really hard. I'm not saying that's a super easy thing to do, especially if you don't have a lot of experience in the building trades, because, you know, there's going to be a lot of lingo and a lot of stuff that might make your head spin a little bit, but at least give it a try. It's gonna help you, I think.
So I'm gonna move things along a little bit, because we have 10 more minutes
We're
until
running
7
out of
o'clock.
time.
So I'm going to go through a couple questions that I can answer, and then shout out to Chris and Dan for a couple. So the waiting list is very, I mean, it's contractor based. It's really hard to say that, you know, is the waiting list going to be, you know, springtime or further out or winter or whatever. It really depends on the type of project that you're looking at and who you're talking to. That's a very specific question. So Debbie, like if you want to talk to somebody about that, then feel free to call Historic Albany Foundation or message us, send us an email or something. There are some issues in terms of finding workers and keeping workers, just kind of as in every job. I feel like right now, I don't think it's specific to contractors or anything in terms of finding employees to get the work done. I think that there's just a large amount of work that people are looking to have done now. And so it's a nice problem to have on the contractor side, but it's also, you know, it's a growth problem.
We do suffer from a shortage of people in the trades. So it is very limited on how many people are, you know, you can possibly go reach out to. And that's something that we're going to work towards trying to change.
And so once you've selected a contractor, when should they get payments? Again, this really goes back to your communication with them. You could work out like a 50-50 split. You know, they get 50% up front, they do the work, they get the final payment at the end. You could, if you've got a really large project, you're probably going to have to break that down a little bit more. A lot of contractors for larger projects require deposits up front and then payments throughout. And that's kind of a way to keep both parties feeling comfortable. Chris, Dan,
You
you
would
guys
like
wanna
discuss
add
that
anything?
before, right? So you would
Yeah.
say,
Yeah, that's something that should definitely be discussed and agreed upon before any work gets done. It's not something where, you know, after the first week or month of work that the contractors have put in, you're like, oh, hey, you know, I don't want to pay you for this. Or the contractor says, oh, hey, I need all of this money right now. It's something that both parties should agree and be comfortable with before any work gets started.
Yeah, really quick. You know, a lot of bigger companies will ask you also just for a deposit upfront to get on their schedule, and you should be comfortable with that because they have a lot of upfront work getting ready for your project. They might ask you to do that. A smaller guy who just works alone like me, I would never do that. I have too much anxiety in my own life to have someone else's money before I know I'm going to start on a project for them. So I typically wait till I know I'm going to be, you know, maybe first day you give me a half down deposit. But that's another thing where you're giving someone your money. And I think it helps to know that they come recommended to you. Because, you know, your Aunt Shirley isn't going to recommend a guy to you that she knows might rip you off. She's going to recommend somebody that did good work for her and probably had the same budget arrangement and deposit arrangement with her that he's going to have with you. So.
So if you hire a general contractor and they have to subcontract out, Chris, this is a good one for you. How much does that increase your cost?
I mean, it varies on the amount of work is asked of the subcontractor, the mechanical contractors. A mechanical contractor is the plumbing and heating, the electrical and the plumbing. I said plumbing twice.
You did say plumbing.
So it's based on their costs, really, and how much involvement you're going to have with that. I try, in so many ways, I try to stay out of that. I don't see myself necessarily, I act and behave like a general contractor, but I don't like to think of myself as a general contractor.
So it could be easier and cheaper potentially for the client to hire somebody out for those things themselves?
It can certainly be advantageous for a customer on a larger project to hire a contractor or a general contractor to oversee and do all that coordinating with the plumbing, the heating, what times of the project, where it falls into the project, the electricians, the plumbers, and all that stuff. It's a real advantage when you have one point of communication and that person's the pinnacle, the top there, and he's sharing all that information, not only with the homeowner, and also general contractors tend to be able to get plumbers and electricians when other people can't, because you've done so much business with them and you've got a good working relationship with them.
Right.
So there's everything is really somewhat, it's tailored to fit every unique project. And I say every project is unique. I don't take deposits from anyone until I am ready to start and we've got it hammered out. And we're a small outfit. We're not huge. I mean, some people even call us a boutique business, but I'm cool with that. I'm in Old Albany, fixing Old Albany homes. That's me. I'm stoked on it. Someone else.
So again, how do you deal with delayed projects? Communication, if it seems like a reasonable delay, they've talked to you about a delay in materials, you know, that's totally fine. It's very reasonable to work with them on that. If they just stopped working for some reason and they're not talking to you and the delay is continuing without any real good reason that they have for that, then that's not cool. You should find somebody else probably if they're just randomly delaying their project.
Sorry, I just want to jump in with one question that we got. Someone emailed us before I wanted to ensure we got to one of their questions too. This was about how do you know what projects require zoning/planning board approval? Is there an easy rule of thumb?
I don't think that there is an easy,
No.
really dependent.
It would have to be a little bit more specific. The question, yes, most all projects, not all projects, require a general building permit. That's, you know, the first phase there. Again, every project is unique and you have to learn a little bit more. If you want to give an example, we can.
So like, you know, like we were talking before we started about, like, if you're repairing something that's already existing, what about if we're in a historic neighborhood?
Well, if you're going to make a repair that's, well, let me figure out the best way to go through this one. Because again, it all really depends. I think what we're talking about, fixing our concrete step is damaged. Can I make a repair to it? If I were to, yes, you can, and encouraged to make a repair to it. But if you were to tear out and reinvent those steps, it would require approval.
Okay, so it's dependent on the size and the scope.
You're not necessarily going to go to planning for repairing your steps, nor zoning. You see, so there's a different set of rules for different sets of projects. And that's why I keep emphasizing how unique they really are. You know, our relationships are unique. Your project's unique. It has to be true.
And so say in this step scenario, I'm the homeowner, I say I want these steps repaired. Would the contractor say to me, we were going to need a permit for that? So you would go by what the contractor says to you?
It matters how extensive the work is. Hopefully you've hired a knowledgeable contractor that, again, has had a lot of experience, and he'll be able to gauge that with you, whether it's really a repair or did you decide to replace them?
Replace. Okay.
Some may need that, some may not. Some people say, hey, the best thing I can do here, we've tried to repair them 6 times now, I just want to replace them. And that's a different set of procedures there.
And is a repair versus a replacement, do you need a permit to repair?
If
you're repairing, I believe, if you're repairing
in
kind,
it's a different thing.
Yeah, I meant like truly repair.
A truly repair, yeah. So if you had a rotten sill in your historic bay window and you decided, I'm going to go try to make an epoxy repair, or if I'm going to cut it out, I'm going to remove the majority of that bay, it's going to send some flags, and they're going to, yes, okay, we're going to seek out, like, well, what is your plan here? And that would say, yeah, what is your plan? And
does it fit with the fabric of the neighborhood? Are you using the correct materials?
You will be filing for a general building permit, a certificate of appropriateness, and again, the master plan. But
Zoe, do we have any questions we can?
Yes, so there's a quick question about insurance. There are actually a couple ones about the insurance. So like, does the contractor file for manufacturer guarantees, and does the contractor's insurance cover, like if the roofer falls off of their roof? So there's a couple quick things there.
Dan, you go ahead, take that one.
If they have the right insurance policies, yeah. I mean, any roofer, you know, if he has guys up there, you know, especially if he's bringing in migrant workers, or if he has workers from around here, he should have the correct insurance policies in place to protect those workers. That's his responsibility. But
and that's why it's really important to ask for that insurance up front as well, because that shows that they are able to cover those types of things.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't like give perfect knowledge to you on that. It's tough. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the question about the manufacturer
warranty.
I've never done that, but that's an interesting thought. I've never done that.
Well, it would seem like if you were putting in a kitchen for somebody and it involved the dishwasher and things that would have warranties, that would be up to the homeowner to.
I would imagine so, but maybe again, it would be that you would have it's again, the communication, the conversations. Also, am I going to be doing this when this gets delivered? Do I take the warranty and do I call? So again, like it's really just about, as in any relationship, it's about communication. So
I'll touch on that really quick. And I already spoke about showers. I'm not beating showers over anybody's head, but I install showers that use certain waterproofing products. I use, you know, Hydroband Laticrete. I use Schluter systems, and all those products, they come with insurance policies. And mostly for those companies, it's a sales pitch for the company, because they want to say, hey, you're going to use our waterproofing to put up a $5,000, $10,000 tile shower. We're going to tell you that we'll guarantee it. Now, I haven't had any issues ever, but I haven't been doing it for a long time. So, you know, say a few years down the road, one of my showers fails, am I going to call Schluter Systems and deal with a warranty issue? Absolutely, because I've built that. I chose to use that product, and I know that I've done it per their specifications on installation. So, and then the dishwasher is a good example of something that would fall on the homeowner. It really depends, again, on what part of the project is it. And these questions are tough to answer because everything's so unique. So again, it just goes back to what expectations have been set with you and the contractor up front, and what is the specific aspect, and do you have a good enough relationship with them that you've now built that you both want to do the fair and right thing? That's the other thing.
Nobody wants to have a bad relationship. You know, the contractor doesn't want to have a bad relationship with you. They don't want you feeling dissatisfied, you know? So I think
about jumping off what Dan was just talking about in terms of being a certified like installer, I just had a roof put on my garage, and it's got a significant warranty on it. So I asked, I didn't even have to ask. The installer was very clear. He goes, in order to maintain this warranty, he comes in and inspects it once a year, every year. And he said, I'm going to do this. And then he said, if you do any work to the building, to the roof, I want you to let me know, so that way your warranty stays in force. And he was very upfront about it and very clear about what it took. And along those lines, it also was the difference between my decision not to install the roof myself. It was a product that I could have laid down that would come with a warranty if I were a certified installer. Even though it may have been doable by me, that product would not have been warranted. So I decided to go with somebody who knew the product really well. There wouldn't be any mistakes. He knew what he was doing, and the warranty would be in effect.
Great point.
Sorry,
there you go.
Two more things, just because we're at 7:05 right now, getting approximate costs and pricing and stuff. So Regina, you were talking about trying to figure out how contractors price things. It's all very unique to the contractors themselves. Some people do cost plus, some people do at cost, some people do, you know, a various pricing scheme. So that's something that you just have to talk to them about and talk to your individual contractor to kind of figure out pricing. Good resources for getting prices for various jobs, for various materials. I mean, just start with Google. You know, that's the best place to start. Just honestly, just do an internet search, say, I'm looking for fencing, and look around.
And use your location as well when you do that, because something in New York is not going to be the same as something in another state.
Yeah, true. And that's just, I mean, you can do that for like trying to figure out your average cost for an actual project too. So not just the materials. You can say, I want to build a fence for my backyard. Approximately how much is this going to cost? And Google can give you typically a pretty good range of prices for that stuff or for the individual materials. And again, like Kim said, it is a very good point that those prices are going to differ based on where you are. So if you're getting a fence in Iowa, that's going to probably cost you a little different than getting a fence here in Albany. So making sure that you're being aware of search results that can be location based is a big thing. And then an anonymous person asked us also about trying to find somebody to do jobs that are too small. So that's actually something that we had talked about too, was like kind of a difference between a general contractor and a handyman, because they do offer different scopes of work. So like, yeah, Chris is not going to come in and fix your shower head. That's going to be a job that is, to use your words, too small for him based off of all of the other projects that he has going on and what he's doing. So finding a handyman.
At the same time, though, I'm sure if Chris has a customer who he's built a long-term relationship with and he's near there, he's probably going to pop in and do it for free. So that goes back to, you want to find people you can build relationships with. You know,
I'm certainly on their beck and call.
Yeah.
So true.
Before we leave the materials cost too far, and I know we have to end quickly, I don't think I think that sometimes people might think it's unfair that the prices that the contractor might charge for the materials is maybe a little higher than what they're finding out there, but it has to be kept in mind that they're going and getting this stuff.
Transporting it
has to be factored into that. So if there's a little bit of a markup, even though they make it a discount, that's covering their time and sourcing the material.
It's covering the time, the sourcing of the materials, the wear and tear on their cars and everything. Yeah, that they are putting into that acquisition of all of those.
So we're at 7:09. So I'm sorry we didn't get to all of the questions. What I'll try and do is export the chat. And then we can try and maybe get back to some of these questions. I'll try and do that as soon as possible. I just wanted to know if we had any final thoughts from anyone.
Are we going to do this again?
I was hoping for more questions.
We got to go. It's 7:09. We're running over.
But if anybody does have any questions and they want to reach out to albanyartisans@gmail.com, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'll end with one quick thing, because I saw Susan's comment. It sounds like we didn't really answer a question for her. If you have a job that's too small and you're not finding somebody to do it, when you contact people, say, hey, I'm willing to wait. Here's what I want to do. And I'm willing, I know you're not going to be able to schedule this for me, but will you just keep it on your radar as filler work? Because guys like me who work alone, I was stuck today because I have a GC who, wasn't ready for me today per my schedule. So I bounced around to some of my past clients, just doing little filler jobs that I know they needed done. And so I'm not saying it's an exact science. Again, it's some luck goes into it that you're going to find somebody and that they're going to be willing to keep that in the back of their head as filler work. But at least approach it with that attitude so that they know, okay, all right, she knows that, this is a smaller thing. Sure. Maybe next week I might finish a job early and I might want to make a few bucks. So maybe I'll swing by and do it,
And I've had success asking a contractor if they had anyone on their crew, or they like you said, filler work, could come in. The guy who did my roof, one of the guys on his crew, I said, I need a gutter fixed. Just it came loose. Could you spare him? Does he want any extra work? And he's like, yeah, sure. You know, here's his number. You know, he'll come whenever he can. And it was within a week the guy came and did that one little job. So
That's a really good, yeah, both of those are really good tips.
I would say that I would, without a doubt, would I replace someone's shower head if they called and they asked and they said, I need help, I want to replace my shower head. You just don't know that that shower head that you just replaced just built one of the most brilliant relationships with a customer.
yeah.
You really do. I mean, we're here to work. We want to work for you. We want to do good work. We want you to reach your expectations. Beyond that, we want to fulfill your dreams. If it's a dream in a larger project, we want to be all that. And we expect you to want to give us as much information as possible so we can make that possible.
Yay.
And keep talking.
Yeah, that's a nice
Yeah, run out of things to say like I usually
positive note to end on. Thank you guys all so much. One thing I wanted to announce before we shut off is that one thing we're going to be doing with the Tool Lending Library is if you do have an Albany Public Library card, we're going to be running a sort of partnership of sorts where you'll be able to take out 2 items in the period of 6 months to see if you'd like to be part of the Tool Lending Library. So we'll share more information on that as we launch. And I just want to say thank you very much to all of our wonderful speakers. I think you all did a fabulous job and I really appreciate
welcome. Thank you.
your expertise. So thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Dan's plural. And thank you, Chris. And thank you, Amy, for hosting us and spreading the word. And thank you to all of our attendees. So I will send the recording after we're finished. Thank you, everyone.